We're going to start in about 5 minutes because some people are still trying to find the location and we're trying to get the live stream set up. So just about 5 more minutes and we'll get going. If you just take your seats, somebody's live streaming. We're going to figure out how to get this on my Facebook. Okay. I don't know how to find tags, but if I go to read out news, I should be able to share it, correct?
Yeah, you're on our page. Scroll down. Okay. You should have a share button. Hold on, do it this way. Put it in here one more time. Do it. Control V. Put the word out. Go to read out news and share the link. They are not letting her share our link. Yes, sir. How much? Right in your day. Facebook is not letting anyone share our link. Current lieutenant governor going to go. She's got a better name right there. But I don't know when you do it. I don't think you know it well enough. So I don't know if I think you should have done a stepping stone in between, like a percentage. I think you should have done that before you went to. That's my first share.
We have a potential hack. So you can keep your microphone on. And that would be, do you have a...
I don't think we need to do it because I mean, they're not letting me live stream it anyway. Facebook has blocked me from doing it.
Are you serious?
They won't let me post yours or read out news, so that's what it is.
Okay.
So I'm so sorry, I'm forgetting your name.
Jason.
Jason, okay.
Yes.
I'm going to introduce you and have you start.
Okay.
Because that's, I think, what we need.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, let me get the sound guy.
Oh, okay. Okay, we're going to get started. Please find a seat. Thank you for coming. And we really need to start with prayer from Pastor Jason. Our live stream is not streaming on Facebook, so if you're hearing this somewhere out there in digital world, share the Calvary Chapel. It's www.calvarychapel.watch, and maybe we can get it out some other way. So if you guys could share that on your phones or whatever, that'd be great. And let's start in prayer.
Welcome to Regeneration Calvary. Let's pray. Father, we just come before you right now, and Lord, we know that as light shines on darkness, Lord, the darkness doesn't like it. Lord, but we are thankful that your word says that the gates of hell will not prevail against the church, and the church is your people, it's not a building. And Father, we come in faith, as your word says, to resist the devil and he will flee. So Father, we come to stand in the gap for those, for the kids, Lord, the exposure of this perversion, of just everything perverted, Lord, in our society. Father, we pray against it, and we ask that you would do the work, and Father, that you would just bless this evening, just protect the parking lot. We thank you, Lord, for Heather being here. We just pray that you would give her a calm and a peace, and we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. And Todd Engel's going to lead us in the prayer, or in the pledge.
Will you stand with me, please?
Do another prayer.
I can do prayer, yeah. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Kendra, where's Kendra? Do you want to come up and tell everyone where the bathrooms are?
Very important job. If you go down to the media booth, take a left, go behind the wall, there's the men's bathroom first, and then the women's bathrooms all the way on at the end of the hallway. You take a right. We also have coffee and water and tea out in the foyer, so if you'd like that, it's out there to your right, or your left to my right. Here you go. Waiting.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to get started, and we're having a lot of technical difficulties, unfortunately, and I have someone texting me saying, can you mute yourself? Do you still need me muted, Amy? Are you okay? She probably can't hear me, so we're going to just keep praying silently as this goes on. Well, the stream is working, so we are good. So thank you for coming tonight. My name is Heather Scott. I'm a state representative. I live in the Panhandle of Idaho, the 5 northern counties I represent now. I wanted to bring us together because I am gravely concerned about the inappropriate materials in our public schools, school libraries, and our libraries. And joining me today is Amy Henry. And she's a mother of 3 and a former teacher down from Canyon County. And she's been addressing this for over a year. And sometimes legislators, we just don't, we're so busy, we just don't hear what we need to hear. And she was super excited when I got interested in this issue. And so her and I have kind of been putting this presentation together and hope to give you guys an overall idea of what's going on and what we can do about it. And hopefully you leave here tonight with some ideas and ways to connect and tools to address your communities. So I wanted to start with thinking back to 9/11. And when that tragedy struck, people woke up. Our country, everyone became a nationalist. They loved the United States. Everybody bought American. They wore red, white, and blue flags everywhere. Communities came together, and the pews of our churches were full. That 9/11 attack was so easy to identify because it was so visual, and it happened all at once. And the people rallied. There's another tragedy that I want to talk about tonight, and I think that it's maybe not been as obvious, it's not been as sudden, and it's a war of perversion against our children. It's an orchestrated attack on their minds and their souls. And because it didn't happen overnight or in one instance, I think many people do not even realize it is happening. Does anyone here even remember when local school boards across the country began writing policies to promote the girls using the boys' bathrooms and the boys using the girls' bathrooms and showers? How long ago was that? Do we know when, do you remember when Drag Queen Hour even started, or the drag queens were reading to the little children? When did that start? When did school counselors start doing counseling to counsel children to change their sex and then hide it from the parents? And when did high school boys, I went to Taco Bell the other day, and the boy had the longest fingernails I'd ever seen, painted, lipstick. When did this happen? And when did we allow a law in this state to say that it was okay for libraries across Idaho to promote pornography? Give them an exemption. We're going to get into that tonight and explain what that is. These gradual attacks and others, they came randomly. And when we heard about them, we kept thinking like, oh, that's somewhere else. That's just not Idaho. We just hear a story here, a story there. It's wrong. It's happening in Idaho. It's happening in Bonner County. It's happening in your little community, wherever you may be in this state, and we can explain why it's happening tonight. You know, I've seen a lot of disgusting things since I've been in the legislature. Some things are upsetting and disheartening. You know, the killing of babies and abortion in this state. After that, this is the most alarming thing that has come to my attention in 8 years. And I feel like I need to do everything I can possibly do to raise attention to this, to organize citizens to address this issue and move on. Our children are a gift from God. Parents are responsible for their children, and they're given the authority to raise those children how they see fit. It is not the role of our government to raise and indoctrinate children. But if parents choose to do nothing, the government's going to continue to be happily step in line and do their job and destroy these children's very souls. We know the World Economic Forum is pushing a global agenda. Corporate America is pushing the woke agenda. Your federal and state government and your local school boards and libraries and governments, they're promoting an agenda that is destroying our families and using your money to do it. And make no mistake, we are at war. In other societies, Marxism, when a war takes over, or when an ideology takes over a country with Marxism, they separate the people by money, by economic class, by how much you make. That's kind of how they divide and conquer a country. That's hard to do in our country. A lot of people are doing really well. A lot of middle class. It's hard to do. But because they can't do it that way, they're going after our morals, our Judeo-Christian values, and we are being divided by race, by gender, and morality in this country. Our country was built on individualism, not collectivism, and to destroy it, our enemies are going to continue to separate and divide us. Today, my hope is that myself and our guest can help all of you formulate a strong and lasting plan to clean up our public school libraries and save the minds and souls of our children. So I'm going to go right now to my first guest, Amy.
Can you hear me?
Yay, we can hear you. So I'm going to grab a seat and...
I can't hear anything, so I think it's my turn to talk. Am I right?
You are right.
You can hear me. All right, well, hello, thank you for this opportunity. I just don't have too much time to talk about this, and it's a big topic. So when I started researching social emotional learning, or SEL, which I believe is the vehicle for all of the CRT, equity, diversity, inclusion, all the garbage that they're bringing in, the comprehensive sex education, genderqueer, LGBTQ plus community. I started looking at the money. And I just wanted to let you know that the ESSER funds is what they're called, ESSER, and they came in under this COVID time, and they all have strings attached. All the money always does, and social emotional learning is one of the strings. But for Idaho, the first batch of the money, the ESSER money that came in, was over $440 million. And that was just the first batch. And of course, the schools have to show that they're living up to the strings attached to continue to receive their money. SEL, for those of you that aren't familiar with it, social emotional learning, it tells kids what to think and how to think. They don't allow them to learn and think for themselves. It also puts kids in a group learning environment. So what was once meant to be done one-on-one in a small setting with a counselor, a trained psychologist, which was very useful, is now being used on a group of 30 or 40 kids. And we're putting targets on kids that don't agree with the collective group think. We're making bullying worse. We're making school more difficult for these kids by doing that. And some examples might be, there's some curriculum in Boise that they asked the elementary kids, you know, Johnny's parents had him go to church this weekend. How do y'all feel about that? And under peer pressure, they try to get all the kids to come around and have this collective thought about that, usually turning it away from what Johnny's parents had intended. Another example is at Eagle High School down here. It's in the West Ada School District outside of Boise. Just this last Friday, they had a day of silence, all to respect the LGBTQ community. Well, this puts kids that are already very vulnerable teenagers in a spot to where they wanted them to come in that morning and sign a paper saying, yes, I agree to this. And if they don't sign the paper or they speak during the day, they make any noise, they're considered haters and they're labeled. And therefore, we're setting them up to be bullied. And it's very obvious if you're choosing not to be quiet for that entire day. So that was a tough day for a lot of kids. It's a way to get our entire generation, all of America, if they can get our kids, then that's it. That's our future generation. And so they're hitting our kids hard and our kids are under attack. It's in our books, it's in our curriculum. I don't know if you've heard about Florida, DeSantis getting rid of a ton of math textbooks. And one of the examples in one of the math books was if you have 17 out of 30 students in your class that identify as non-binary, how many students, what's the percentage of students in your class that are non-binary? So as a former math teacher, I was shocked. I thought, CRT, SEL, and math, how did they do that? Then I started looking at these examples, and it's bad, and it's everywhere. Sherry Ybarra, our current superintendent of education, she's since taken it or hidden it very well on the state website, taken down this CASEL SEL framework, but it is being used and pushed throughout the entire state. And CASEL stands for Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning. And there are 5 frameworks. Am I okay on time? Good, okay. And under the 5 frameworks, I just wanted to read you a couple of things because all in all, they're really smart in how they sell this to parents. They're smart in how they've sold it to school boards. I've had school board members come to me and say, is it too late to back this up? I had no idea this is what I was voting in. So for example, integrating personal and social identities, examining prejudices and biases, taking others' perspectives, identifying diverse social norms, including unjust ones, demonstrating cultural competency, demonstrating personal and collective agency. And they're not only are they teaching this to our kids, but they're assessing them, they're receiving a grade on this, and they're evaluating the teachers on whether or not they do it. And so it's hard to get away from. I wanted to give you a couple more examples if I have time. The Swell Collective is something that you could look up, SWELL, the Swell Collective. And here's an example. Again, this is being used in the Treasure Valley. I've pulled public records. I know it's there. They say, we serve the intersectional communities that have been historically oppressed. The marginalized, the outcast, and the disenfranchised are our people. We inspire, equip, and amplify these change agents. These are our kids they're talking about. We dismantle oppression from the ground up and from the inside out. Again, that's another training that they're running our teachers through. And then in Nampa this last year, they had a trainer come in August, and the entire certified staff had to go through her SEL lesson. And just a couple of things. The goal was centered on what belonging truly is, why it matters, how mindfulness, you'll hear that word a lot, mindfulness and SEL are vehicles for advancing a world built on belonging. The conditions of belonging include equity, anti-racist, decolonization, cultural appropriation, intersectionality, race, racial justice, structural racism, white fragility, white privilege, white supremacy, etc. And the teachers will be introduced to practical strategies to begin the inner work of racial healing. And this goes on and on. There's classes that our teachers are taking with Malcolm X's daughter, Desmond Tutu's daughter, and Nelson Mandela's grandson. And so for people to say that this isn't happening to our kids in Idaho, it is. I promise you it is. They're trying to hide it and make it look nice, but it's a big problem. And with this, we see the full day kindergarten. They're looking for all day preschool, because the sooner they get our kids, the easier it is to keep them kind of almost in a brainwashed, actually. By 6th grade is what we hear. The goal is to confuse children and destroy the family. I don't know how many of you know it, but the ISATs have questions prior to the test asking about your home. They're asking kids about your family. And this happens on and on and on. They're always collecting data. You know, do your parents own guns? Do your parents take you to church? Et cetera, et cetera. And so those things, I opt my kids when they were in school. They're no longer in school, but when they were, I opted them out of the ISAT, because it's none of the school's business if I own a gun. It's none of the school's business if I take my kids to church. Those are our children, and God gave them to us. So Heather, I just want to make sure I'm okay to keep going on into who the players are and who's bringing this down. Okay. All right. So we'll keep going. So the IEA stands for the Idaho Education Association. The NEA is the National Education Association. They're teachers unions. So you have the NEA at the top, and then the state. So for us, the IEA, and then each of your school districts will have another union. So the Boise Education Association is the BEA. Nampa is the NEA, which is confusing, but it's the same as the national. But they're all doing and pressuring their teachers, and I know this firsthand because I was there. I was pressured to teach the National Teachers Union agenda, and there's a lot of money and a lot of lobbyists at the Capitol. But I just real quick want to read to you from their page, and I just pulled this off of there today. They're not hiding this. The NEA, so the National Education Association, Ed Justice, engages and mobilizes educators, allies, and activists in the fight for racial, social, and economic justice in public education. They say public schools power our communities, but their strength depends on us addressing the systematic inequalities that our students and communities face. They continue to go on talking about dismantling the systems of oppression that prevent children from accessing great public education. So that's, I think, one of our biggest battles in education until we can get some control of these unions and the power they have, and legislators in office that will not bow to their power. And that's really important. The other one that upsets me almost the most, being a former math teacher, is the Association of Mathematics Teachers, Educators. And real quick, this is on their front goals, long-term goals 2020 to 2024. We are committed to furthering social justice and equity through our work as mathematics teachers, educators. We recognize the longstanding structural inequalities embedded in the teaching and learning of mathematics that have contributed to significant opportunity gaps for students and teachers with respect to mathematics. Our work as an organization must attend to the active support of more equitable and anti-racist mathematics teaching and to the education and support of mathematics teacher educators in ways that provide meaningful opportunities to teach and learn for every mathematics student and teacher. And these groups go on and on and on, and there's big, big money. Let's see. Oh, here's another National Education Association quote from 2019. Educators have decided that gender identity is a learned behavior. Children don't understand, so have to have schools teach them the differences. Males, females, gay, lesbian, trans, bio, and children can choose whatever they want to be on the spectrum. Anyway, I believe we have to take our power back as parents, and it's not the school's job, nor is it their right to be bringing this onto our children and into our classrooms. It's time to go back to ABC, 1, 2, 3, and the basics.
Thank you, Amy. And she's going to talk a little bit more toward the end. We have some more stuff to go over. One of those things she mentioned, mindfulness. If you remember Pastor Tim Remington from Coeur d'Alene, who was shot, I think, 6 times in the back. The gentleman that shot him was practicing mindfulness. This is the stuff they're teaching these kids now. I just want to make sure we're clear here. Not every teacher is participating on this. Not every librarian is participating in this. They are caught up in a system that is so big and so powerful. These lobbyists are powerful. The agendas are just there. Everything's laid out, and they're just trying to get through their day and do the best they can. And they're fearful. They're fearful of losing their job to come forward. So thank you, Amy. I'm just happy we have parents that are willing to stand up and share. I'm going to talk a little bit about what's going on in the legislature, and then with these issues, talk about House Bill 666, where we tried to remove the exemption, and then we're going to get into how you form a plan to address all this. So when it comes to the legislature and what happens in Boise, you guys know we're down there for 3 months. And so there's a lot that goes on all the time down there, but we're there for 3 months. A lot of this, it all comes down to the money. There's money that's being pumped into our state for social emotional learning and training of the teachers. There's funding to digitalize a lot of these critical race theory books and get them into the hands of children in other ways. There's money for all these associations and all these groups that are pushing these agendas. It's all kind of being circulated. If you remember, I think it was last year, we stopped a bill, a critical race theory bill, to get critical race theory books, $6 million into the hands of these pre-kindergarten preschools. And so every time you just kind of take your breath down there, there's more and more coming. We're not keeping up with it. We stopped a bill this year to digitalize everything in the libraries, but realized we had digitalized half of the stuff last year, and it slipped right through. So there's money coming in for preschools. There's been a big push for all-day kindergarten. They're trying to get the kids as early as possible. I have a study. I brought a whole bunch of documentation, and I fear getting it out and just getting lost in the papers, but I have documentation where they say that the child's mind up to 6 years old is, if you can get that mind up to 6 years, you can control so much on that child, and it impacts them for the rest of their lives. So the money, Idaho Association of Commerce and Industry, I know you've heard me talk about them before. They have had an agenda to get all-day kindergarten in this state. They have pushed it and bullied the legislators, and everyone just caved. They got the numbers this year. We do not have the numbers down at the Capitol to stop this stuff. The money for clubs. There's a lot of federal money coming in for after-school programs. There's a lot of money coming in for these rural rural communities, something for the kids to do, and a lot of these agendas are coming through that way. Something over in Priest River, this is, I think it was 2019, the Human Rights Club. Now, this was several years ago. This is part of STEM. Have you heard about STEM? Science, what is it? Science, technology, engineering, and math. And now they've added STEAM. They add arts in there. And so a lot of this arts money goes for clubs. So it's STEAM. It was 2018. I have it in my notes here. So the Human Rights Club over in Priest River, they had December, the month of December, they were respecting and learning about men and LGBTQA. So, I mean, this is not new. When we're going to get into pornography, a lot of that is new. So some of these grants get approved by the legislature, some do not. As she mentioned, as Amy mentioned, the ESSER funds, a lot of those went straight into the schools. So unless you're looking at your school budgets, you have no idea. Just yesterday, I found, I was just researching health and welfare because I had an incident where there was a drag queen couple and they got foster care and that told their story. And the story was that health and welfare was advertising foster care and adoption at their event. So I started to research that, and I found that your state tax dollars now, they're funding, I thought $150,000, but I've had someone from the inside tell me over $3 million now for these pride festivals and festivals across the state to buy merchandise and promote this stuff. So, and I mean, I just keep saying that, we just don't have the numbers down there. We just don't have it. Our government-run schools, the budgets continue to grow. So sometimes when we think, oh, we stopped this bill for $6 million. So the budget in 2019 for the government schools, $329,200,000. That was in 2019. 2021, $547 million. And this year alone, $970 million for our Idaho schools. So all these grants, all these programs, they all are pushing this agenda. We had a bill this year. I think we ran it last year, and it passed, but the Senate stopped it. And this year, I think the House stopped it this year, to say that these clubs coming into our schools have to be approved by the parents. Do you know that Planned Parenthood can come into your local school and start a club, and you won't even know about it? And my question on the House floor is, what about these perverts, the men gay boy love or something like that? They got some name where they are actual pedophiles. They have an organized group. According to our law in Idaho, they could come into the schools and start a group, and you would not even know about it, and your school boards may not even know about it. So that bill failed, and lots of bills fail. Okay, I'm going to talk about House Bill 666, and I have to get my notes out, so excuse me for 1 minute. Okay, so this year, let me just tell you what the law says. The law in Idaho, it defines obscene materials. It gives you all these definitions for what obscene materials are, what nudity is, what sexual conduct is, what's harmful to minors. It goes into detail. You can read the law. I've posted a lot of this online, so you can go find it online. I've posted it at growingfreedomidaho.com/smut. So if you go to Growing Freedom Idaho, look for the smut tab, and you can find it. But you can read the law, and it's very explicit. It talks about masturbation. It talks about what we define as pornography. So pornography in Idaho, it's legal for adults to have pornography or to share pornography. Now, it's not legal for an adult to share pornography with a child. That's illegal according to our code. under 18-15-15, it's called disseminating materials harmful to minors. We define exactly what's harmful to children, and we say it's illegal. But then what we do is we go on in the next part of code, 18-15-17, and we say that there's an exemption to giving pornography to children. This exemption is for bona fide school, college, university, museum, or public library. So that was the bill we brought this year. We brought this bill to say, hey, we don't want there to be an exemption. And the reason it got brought to our attention, I'll share this with you. I had a book someone showed me 3 years ago, and it had a lot of naked pictures in it, naked pictures of children. And so I called the Attorney General. I said, hey, I want to share this. It was for 7-year-olds in our libraries. And I looked, and it was in some of the libraries. And I said, hey, I want to share this with the other legislators. I want to be able to share this. Am I going to get in trouble for using the state property to copy this, to hand it out and to show? No, you're fine, you're fine. Well, that's pornography. It's pornography, and it's completely allowed in all these books that are being distributed for the kids. I have a packet, and I'm not going to pass it around. I'll have it up here. I'll leave it in the back. You can look at it if you want. If you think that this is just, they're just overreacting, you can go look at the packet. Some people have brought some books in. I haven't looked at these books exactly, but these are vivid, graphic photos of sexual acts in children's books. And it's wrong. It's definitely wrong. Okay, so we passed this bill. In the House, we passed this bill to get rid of the exemption. And so then the Senate got a hold of it, and I think you have heard my thoughts on the Senate. Every single one of those people need replaced. But they sat on that bill. They would not hear it. And the head of the Senate, and I'll say this into the camera, Senator Winder, you would not hear that bill. You called it mischief, and you said that the House was crazy. I think it's crazy that we're allowing this stuff in the schools. That's the mentality down there. That is the mentality from Boise. They're fine with this smut in the schools. So that's what kind of got this whole thing going. And so then some parents and some groups just start randomly forming actually, let me get back to my notes or I'll get way sidetracked, and I don't want to do that. Not on live camera. Okay, so why can't you pass a bill like this? It seems like it's common sense. She talked about all the lobby groups. They also have scoring cards for legislators. And so there's one group out there called Children Are Primary, Kids Matter Index Card. They give you a scorecard. They were against that bill. I got rated a 38%, so I don't know how much they really care about kids. But they put the pressure. They set up these nonprofits. They put a bunch of, let's just say, progressive-leaning people on there that agree with this stuff. Doctors, there's doctors down there. And so then those people just give that group credibility, and then they just throw it right back at the legislature, and they bully these legislators to not protect children. There was one other thing I wanted to share, and I don't remember what it was. Does anyone have any quick questions before we get into? Okay, go ahead.
Mine's not a question, it's a comment. If anybody has any material, like these books, we have somebody on our school board, Jalen Peters, who is looking for this around here.
Perfect. And so we're going to get into what you can do. So she has a connection with the school board member. And I guess I can go to this other point. I'm going to hit this, and then we'll go on what we can do and how to make the plan. So I had a librarian that was going to speak tonight from, she was from south of here, south of the state, and she was going to share how the systems work, how it's structured. Unfortunately, she was afraid of repercussions. There are good people in the system that are sharing stuff, and we have to be careful putting too much pressure on them. They will come after their families. They will just cause trouble for these people. So, but I did have a conversation with her, and I'm going to share what she told me, and then I'll get to what we can do. So this was from a librarian down south. She said, I attended a public library association conference held last month in Oregon. So all our Idaho libraries are part of the American Libraries Association. So she went to the conference. She said, the Public Library Association is a division of the American Library Association. Idaho libraries and I think schools pay to be members. So if they're paying, they're using your taxpayer dollars to be members. And in turn, they can receive legal and other counsel from the hard hitters. So a quote from the presenter down there was, we can't help but to be a woke librarian. One of the goals is to queer the library. Visible queer materials in displays don't push too hard or you'll get pushback from the citizens. Their goals are to remove gender from the policies and bathrooms. So that's something we need to look for in our libraries here. The presenter mentioned several times how to complicate the conversation, and that's a quote. When anybody questions a book or questions their behavior, they're supposed to complicate the conversation and obfuscate when asked questions by patrons, to cause them to be confused or to just get frustrated and then back off. The presenter encouraged diversity audits. They shared the audits from the libraries down there. They had started with 15% diversity. That's GBLTQ and some of this other stuff. Last year, they achieved 25% in the libraries. Next year, or this year, the goal was 35%, and their end goal is 50%. They want to systematically weed the libraries of outdated, offensive content, like Thanksgiving, and normative materials, and replace them with non-normative materials. Now, these are quotes from what they said, the American Library Association, which our Idaho libraries are in. The presenter encouraged self-criticism and required staff to have diversity training, go to gay pride events as part of their job, out people at work who've made offensive comments so that others know it's been dealt with. She went on to state that it's about to get considerably worse. The new president of the American Libraries Association just bragged, and this is a national, she is the first Marxist, lesbian, American Libraries Association president and can't wait to direct, and this is a quote, direct resources and opportunities to transform our communities through collective organizing for the collective power. That's where we're at. That's what Idaho's connected to, the mothership. And I don't know if you know, but there was the Teachers Association, the National Teachers Association had become so woke that Idaho pulled out of that this year. That was one good thing that happened. There's an opportunity that we as citizens can push to pull out of this American Libraries Association. And with that kind of nonsense, I believe we should. Okay. We are going to now talk about how to organize your community. So, does anybody want a 5-minute stretcher? Stretch your legs? We got 2 people, and then other ones said keep going. A question, go ahead. It would have to be from the state level. I think you'd have to do it from the state level. I will say, and I talk on this on how to get organized and push back from your community. Elections have consequences. And there's a superintendent of education up for election every 4 years. And it is critical that that person And I'm not going to tell you who the person is, but there's one person out of the 3 people running for that position this year that will stop this nonsense in our state. And that is your job. That's your job to figure that out. Okay, so I'm going to take a drink of water, and then we're going to talk about how we're going to get going on this. Sorry. The superintendent of education. Uh-oh, we got it. The pastor's coming. What do you not need?
When somebody asks you a question, you can repeat it for camera. They don't know what you're answering.
Perfect. Okay, sorry about that. Now I forget what your question was. Oh, how do we get out of the ALA was the question, and the answer is every 4 years there's an election of the superintendent of education. That would help a lot. And there's one of the 3, and that's your job to do the homework to figure out who that would be. Okay, how to organize your community. This is my favorite part, and Amy's patiently waiting. Hardest thing to do is to get started. That's it. But if this doesn't motivate you tonight, and if you look at these pictures, and if you struggle with pornography, you don't want to look at these pictures. They're graphic. But the hardest part's to get started. You just have to do it. But as soon as you do it, it all just starts falling into place, because you'll be doing good work. So you need just one person in each county. I always say you just need one person. That person is someone that can take the lead. You don't have to have that one person right away. You can start forming groups in your county. Bonner County is a big county, but you need one person who can kind of pull the county together to keep your information organized, keep it in a central location, keep it so you can share it, and that person then can also coordinate outside of your county. And that's what we're going to need to do to stop this. Then, number 2, you need to form the group. A group of concerned citizens that meet regularly. Where's the judge at? Is he here? Oh, he's getting coffee. So these groups have been just naturally forming already. There's a group in Coeur d'Alene right here. I know there's a group, there's several groups. I don't want to out them all, but there's several groups that have just started popping up that have started to go to the libraries and just check out the books. But you need to meet regularly, even if it's on Zoom, even if it's just, once every 2 weeks. Till you get going, you need to just meet. Once you have met, here's the plan. So every plan is going to look different depending on your community. But the first thing you need to do is you need to identify every library in your county and figure out how they're funded. I'm not going to give you all the answers because I don't even know all the answers. And I think people forget, government's not going to fix this. Government has caused this. They're not going to fix this. Only the citizens are going to fix this if it is their desire to fix it. So you need to identify every library in your county, figure out how they're funded. Many of these libraries are taxing districts. They tax you. It's on your homeowners' bills. So you look there, figure out and just make a list of all your libraries. Figure out how they're funded. Figure out if the trustees are elected or appointed. I've heard that some of the city ones are appointed, and then some of the other ones are elected. So I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what it looks like in the school. But you got to remember, you don't only have public libraries, but you also have school libraries. So your team might have to take 2 different paths, right? You might have to have one dealing with the school stuff and one dealing with the public libraries. Okay, then what I think you need to do is request a line item from your county clerk. If it's outside, if it is outside the school, if it's the school, you're going to get a line item from your school on what every dollar coming into and every dollar going out of that budget. Every bit of those dollars are going to be connected to something. I can pull the state. If the money goes through the state, I've pulled a state list of that. I'm going to post it on that site I told you about, Growing Freedom Idaho under SMUT. I'll have that there, and you can. It'll be an Excel spreadsheet. You can sort it by your county, and that'll help you some. But there's tons of little funds coming into these things that you're going to have to dig around for. So request a line item from your county clerk. Figure out where the money's going. Make sure you have every dollar going in and out. Ask them a couple times. Also look at their memberships. There's money going from that library to memberships. Like we talked about the American Library Association. I've learned that there's like regional library groups that there might be 5 or 6 libraries that have elected or they've appointed somebody to kind of work on their behalf. You need to follow that rabbit trail too, because they pay membership dues to groups that push agendas back on them. It's kind of crazy, but that's how it works. Okay, then you need to follow the library events. How many people have been in a library in the last month? Oh, a lot more than I thought. Okay, there's always library events. Follow every one of their events. Get their calendars. Look at their calendars. Scrutinize them. Many of these events are coordinated statewide. I found out that they're getting their agendas from the American Library Association. Now, they can choose to use that agenda or not, but I found out like a local library here, like the windows that they have the glass windows when you go in a library and they're always decorated some way. Citizens can rent that, or I don't know if it's rent or reserve it and put information on like constitutions or whatever. But if nobody has anything, the library will take care of the display. Some of those agendas for those displays, they're coming from the people with the bad agendas. And so if someone gives you a plan for 12 months, the themes of your library, it's easy. You don't have to think, right? Well, just follow the agenda. And that's what's happening in a lot of these libraries. So follow the events, attend the library board meetings. You gotta go to the meetings. They're gonna have to talk in public at some point, and that's how you're gonna find out what they're really doing. Just have, the other thing you're gonna need to do is some people are gonna have to gut it up and run for office. You're gonna have to run for some of these positions. You have to have good, if there's 5 people, you need 3 good people on there to make the decision. We have many school boards across this state that have flipped this year, where they've got 3 good people that are working for the children and the families instead of the machine. You're going to have to step up and consider running. You don't have to know everything. I didn't know everything when I ran for office. I didn't really know anything. So you have to put yourself out there, and there's lots of people I know that will help you run a campaign. Okay, run for citizens. Talk to the head librarian. So actually, you got to go in and look at the books, and the groups. Some of the groups have done that, and the group from Coeur d'Alene, they gave me a book, a list of I think 150 bad books that they've found or they've targeted, and they put them in a spreadsheet. They've got teams going in there. They're checking them out, keeping them out of the hands of children. But you're going to have to go in and spend some time looking through the books. I've got lots of lists. It's just book after book after book. And it's more than you think. So it's going to take some time. So people on your group, some people won't want to run for school board. Yes?
So it's been expressed in our area close to Coeur d'Alene. If you check out the books, it means that it's popular and then they will order more.
Yeah, so she said that in Coeur d'Alene, they've found out that if you check out the book, it's popular, so they order more. And so that is a problem. So once you identify the books, you first have to challenge the books. And I don't know where it is in my notes because I'm way off my notes, but there was a group the other day that challenged several books down in Coeur d'Alene, and the librarian, they lost all their challenges. They put them back out on the shelves. And the thing is, what they're doing is not illegal. Providing pornography to children is not illegal in libraries. That's the problem, right? Because your legislature couldn't, because it was craziness, according to Chuck Winder. Okay, sorry, that angers me. Talk to the head librarian. Tell them you want the books removed. Go with a group of people, sit down with them, explain your concerns. So he asked about anti-grooming laws on the books in Idaho. And I just got approached with this question because I had a gentleman whose daughter was groomed and molested, and I have not looked yet. He said that it's not in the books. We don't have any laws against that. And that's what he wanted me to pass a bill, so I haven't looked yet. So I do not know that, but that is what these books are doing. They're putting ideas into your children's heads that they probably didn't have. Okay, so you want to talk to the librarian, figure out their protocols, figure out their rules, and how you challenge books, and then challenge them. Question? Okay, so he's asking, like, if the intent of that bill was just for sex education, is there a chance you could go after these people for what they're doing? And unfortunately, elections have consequences, and that's another election that's coming up is your AG. The Attorney General of this state needs to be on the side of the citizens and not the woke agenda. And that's critical that you look at those Attorney General candidates that will be on your ballot in May, and you look at those candidates and know what they're all about. Because if you get an AG that's not going to stand with the citizens, and I might have an opinion about the one we have that I won't share, nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen. So, and you know, we know where we're at in society. What's right is wrong, and what's wrong is right. Things are upside down. And toward the end, Amy is going to share a little bit about the mentality of the school with their rules and their handbooks, and they think that trumps state law. And everything's backwards right now. And I mean, the legislature passes bills all the time that violate the Constitution, and nobody does anything about it. So an AG is critical, Attorney General. Okay, so you got to figure out the protocols to challenge these books, challenge them. Oh, this was where the North Idaho group, you guys want to raise your hands? The people in the North Idaho book group, the book club? All right. So when confronted with extreme examples of what's allowed in content in the libraries, the board members expressed that children have the right to read and be exposed to everything. So they did challenge it. And that's the mentality of many of the people in the library. The library director bragged about all the books challenges have been denied. So that is where you really need to step up and put pressure on the elected trustees. Elected trustees as far as I know, can fire a director of a library. It happened up in Priest Lake. The trustees fired the director because it's a hired position. It's not an elected position. So under a republic, our elected officials have more credibility than hired bureaucrats. They should. Okay. Yes? Does the legislator recognize the word grooming as a legitimate term? I do not know. I do not know the answer to that. I'm going to finish this so we can finish up, and then we'll do Q&A. So you found the books, you've approached the head librarian, you've talked to the trustees, you've gone to the meetings, you've got your group checking out the books. You also need to determine if and when there's public story reading times. Figure out who picks the books, who reads the books, and what that looks like. And maybe volunteer some church members that want to go in and read books for the kids. I talked about the displays already. Homeschool groups, it's a great thing for homeschool groups or church groups or anyone can go to the library and take care of the displays. In your group, when you get this team of citizens, and there's a lot tonight, and I think we're going to have time that you guys can network when we're done, you're going to identify people that are just researchers. There are some people that just like to research. I have one school board member across the state that contacted me. Now, this is one of the good ones that was elected. They requested from their clerk the list of every book in the school libraries. And after 8 weeks and they didn't get it, they went and asked the clerk again, and they said, oh, we lost that. So they requested it again, and they got a list of every single book in their school library. So now that trustee can share with her constituents or his constituents what books are good, what books are, or he can share it with them, and then they can go through that list and determine if anything needs to be addressed. So there's researchers, identify your team of citizens, go to the libraries, look for the smut. You're going to have people in your group that are numbers people, put them in charge of the money. I mean, you just need someone to look at the money, you need someone to go to the meetings, and someone to go through the books. And if a school refuses to remove the books, citizens have to go to the school board meetings. And Amy's had good experience down south, and they actually bring the books in and start reading them. And the school members go crazy. And they're like, this is available to my 11-year-old. You're going to listen. And so that seems to get school board members' attention, graphics and that. But be careful, because it's pornography, a lot of it. So Networking is critical. That's why I'm glad you're here tonight. I met someone this week at a meeting that shared another option, and I haven't researched it totally, but it's called Bonds for the Win. Bonds for the Win. And you should write that down if you're in a library group. And apparently every single I think elected official and bureaucrat groups, they all have to bond. They have to get a bond that says, they put up money for them to do their job properly. And this website walks you through how to go after their bonds for not doing what they're supposed to do. Question in the back. Oh. So there's someone here that's expert on it and says there's already a Bonds for the Win for Idaho, and there's a group already networking on how to do this. It's another angle to go over. You're going to have to go after every angle you can. And it is so important, to do this. It's like if you have never been involved in anything civically or, community, this is the thing. This is the thing you should say, I could do this, because it's so huge. And And then the last thing I have is elections matter. We have to replace some of these bad people. We have to do it. And we can talk after about that if you have any questions. Okay, I already talked about the librarian that went to the, what was it called? The Public Library Association Conference and all that. I think we're gonna go to Amy to finish up, and she's gonna talk about a little bit of things, and then I'm gonna end it, and then we're gonna just do Q&A, and I hope you can hear me, Amy.
My turn? Okay. Well, there's just a few things I'd like to talk about as far as how to get these books out. And Representative Scott has said some of these things, but we have to identify the problem. Does our library have the problem? And we only know if we can get in there and take a look at those. I haven't had to walk into the library to find it. I actually started following a group called Laverna in the Library out of Utah. They're on Facebook, and they do a fantastic job. They have a huge team there that is going through and identifying these books. So I started with their list of books, and I was able to get on, I almost hate to say this, I'm afraid they'll shut me out, but you can go on to Go Follett. It's GOFOLLETT, gofollett.com. And you can actually look through look through libraries in your area and search for a book. So I did that with a few here, and people from all over the Treasure Valley started joining in to see if it was in their area high schools or middle schools. And one of the books is called Looking for Alaska, and it's meant for 4th through 10th grade. That's the recommendation. And I don't know if you have any kids there, so I want to be careful what I say. But it teaches our kids quite vividly how to do many sexual things, and it's very explicit. It's way too detailed. Anyway, I don't think they should have any of that at school. If I want them to know about that, I'll teach them at home. But it's in our Nampa high schools, 5 copies right here in my local high school. In West Ada, down in Meridian, they have it in Owyhee High School, Rocky Mountain High School, Eagle Academy, Meridian High, Renaissance, CUNA High School, and Idaho Falls. We've found it in all of those libraries. And if we could all start networking statewide to locate these books and find out how many are in our schools and where, that would be awesome. The other thing is the superintendent here in Nampa, when told about some of these books, he said, well, we'll put them on the top shelves. So apparently that's their solution. Kids that are tall can have them. The shorter kids have to have a tall friend to get them for them, right? Seems so ridiculous to me. Anyway, and we do need to talk to our librarians about our concerns, but from my experience in teaching and education, most librarians, not all, but the vast majority are fairly liberal and agree with this library association, the American Library Association. I do also I want to remind you, and this was a little shocking to me, but pornography is legal for you to distribute, as long as you do not distribute child pornography. However, the big but in the child pornography being illegal is that libraries, schools, and museums have full reign. They can do whatever they want. That's horrific to me. There's a couple of things also I would just like you to know. We've got to get others to help us. Homeschool groups, churches, neighborhood friends. Some of the best support I've had is from grandparents. So there's ways for people to get involved. They may not want to do the talking or going to the school boards or going to the librarians, but they might be willing to do the research. So it's nice to find and be able to use the gifts that certain people have where they're comfortable. We do have an event down here on May 7th. It runs from 9 to 3:30. It's at Foothills Christian Church. It will be live streamed on Brighteon, but also if you want to purchase tickets to attend, you can go to KTR www.ticketleap.com. And if you go on there before Sunday, one ticket's $30, but two or more, they give you a reduced price of $22.50. So Dr. Duke Pesta will be there, and he is amazing when it comes to the things that we're talking about tonight. He's a college professor and very, very well educated, and he has great examples, so things make more sense to us. This group that I talked to you about in Utah, this Laverna in the Library, they're working on identification stickers to put on the books, so it identifies what type of a book you're looking at. I think that's great. However, I'm not sure that it's enough. I think the books just need to be removed. And I'm not trying to ban books. Some people say you're a book burner. That's not it. But when these kids are seeing pure X-rated materials in our libraries, they need to go. Our tax dollars are paying for that, and that's not okay. Another book I wanted to tell you about really quick is a book called George. Well, it was called George. And it was one of the top banned books in the United States. And the author came out and said, what in the world was I thinking? George did not want to be George. George wanted to be Melissa. So the entire book is exactly the same except for the cover. The title of the book has been changed to Melissa. Everything in the book, all the reasons that the book was banned, is still there. And our little Scholastic readers that go home to our elementary kids, April, right now of this year, it's in the Scholastic Readers as one of our young children's books, telling them all about the gender queer theory is what I call it. Anyway, one more thing, I keep saying one more thing, but there is a librarian in Boise, and I worked with him. He's a junior high librarian, a gay man, very involved in the teachers union. And they put an article out with him when they were referring to this House Bill 666 with all the library junk. And if you want to look up the article, it's on my parents' Facebook page, which I can tell you about in a minute, but I also have it on my website. But he says the right book at the right time might whisk a kid into a fantasy adventure as a temporary escape from real world problems and frustrations. A book may open their eyes to a person, place, or culture they've never been before. The right book might provide a reflection of their own experiences, offering solace and support. Well, I get that. Sometimes we want to read to feel like we're somewhere else. But what he's talking about here is putting kids in a whole nother, putting them in and experiencing something like this, Looking for Alaska. If you look into that book, that's horrific. Just give them a little bit of that experience so we can start changing the way that they think. So it's not putting them into a Western, I don't know, novel and seeing what's happening in the Western frontier. It's putting them in junior high kids' bedrooms and telling them what they do in the bedroom with somebody else. And they know that. Okay, I keep saying one more thing. Now I have two more things. In loco parentis, please listen for that, because the schools and our superintendents believe that in loco parentis means once our child steps foot on the school property, they have parental control of our kids. And that horrifies me. So I tell parents, never sign an electronic handbook, never sign an electronic anything with the school. They legally have to give you a paper copy. Please request a paper copy, read through it, mark through the things that you do not agree with. You should have seen mine last time. Things that you believe need changed, because they're telling us, and I don't know where this stands legally, but they are telling us that those school handbooks, once you sign them, you are agreeing to everything in those handbooks. So that supersedes our constitutional rights, our Idaho laws, etc., because you just now signed a contract with the school pertaining to your child. So please watch those things carefully and share those with your friends and family and neighbors. Idaho does have I think the best homeschool laws in the country. And I have a lot of parents say to me, I don't have time to homeschool. I work all the time. My husband works all the time. It takes very few hours a day to homeschool your kids and to get them through the education that they need, and usually more than they're going to get in school. Two working parents in a home can still homeschool their kids. You can do it in the evenings, you can do it on the weekends. There's a lot of homeschool groups, so I encourage you to reach out to them, because these public schools, we can't keep calling them public schools. They're government schools, full-blown government schools, government controlled, and the government has an agenda for our children. And until we get our kids out of there, they're not safe. I don't believe they're safe. And so I do encourage parents, try to reach out to homeschool people and see about homeschooling your kids. I taught math in public schools for years, and I'm probably the last person that would ever say that a year ago. But having watched everything that I know is there, and it's so full in all of Idaho's schools. I tell parents that I think leaving your kids in a government school is a form of child abuse. You just can't do it. We have to save them. Anyway, that's it.
Okay. Thank you, Amy. Thanks for joining us. Few last minute things, and then I'll just do my closing. But I have a letter here, and this was from the Idaho Library Association. So there's the, I don't know, the national one, and then there's the Idaho one. And this is a letter. They said, as the Idaho Library Association Legislative Chair, I am writing to share why we oppose House Bill 666 and the removal of legal protections for our public and school library staff. So they felt strongly enough to put it in writing that they did not want that bill passed. They said, leaving us at risk at being charged with a misdemeanor up to a year in jail for a $1,000 fine. And so they're worried. I mean, they know that if that bill passed, they would have a misdemeanor on them because what they're doing is wrong. And it's wrong for anyone else to do it. It's common sense. And so why are we allowing them to do it? I'm going to leave. So a lot of this stuff I'm going to put at growingfreedomidaho.com and just look for the smut tab, and I'll put all the PDFs there. That is where I'll have them. It kind of takes a while to upload. I'm still working on my platforms. So I'm going to leave the pictures, the graphic pictures over there. And if you want to go see, I kind of folded the pages down to some of the most graphic ones, so they'll jump right out at you, and so you might not have to look very long. And then I got list of books, and I'll leave list of books over there. I can send you digital copies of these, but I think the lists are growing. I had a final list, and then I got a list from the Kootenai people, and it kept getting bigger, and so I just think we have to get in there and look at our own libraries, and there's going to maybe be a list for every library district, or, the school district. You'll have your school lists, and then you'll have your public lists. And let's see. Some people might say, well, you don't have kids in school. Why do you care? You're not, you don't even have grandkids. Why do you care? But this is changing our society. This is changing our culture. And the route we're going, I know what's coming, because it's when you see the GBLTQ plus, something else is coming. And I know what Satan wants for the kids. And it's not good. And so there's a war going on. And the scariest thing about this war is that these tactics that are being waged against society, most people are just unaware it's even happening. And it's good versus evil. It's not everybody out there's doing it, but the system is set up to make it easy that it's happening. I'm not sure how this battle's going to end, but I always go back to all that evil needs is good men to do nothing. And we have to do something. This is so critical. Thanks for coming out tonight. We're going to do Q&A. Thank you, the speakers, Amy, and we'll keep you on in case people have questions for you. She has more experience in the schools. And then hopefully it's still early, so you have a little bit of time to connect with other people. So go ahead and go questions. Yes. Oh, yeah. She has a Facebook page, yes? Parents for Freedom and Liberty.com, or no, Facebook. Parents for Freedom and Liberty. And so connect with Amy. She's unbelievable. If you know, there's an Amy of the North in Kootenai County that's a mover and shaker, and then there's an Amy in the South, and I called the wrong one when we started this meeting by accident. Go ahead, what's your question or comment?
So earlier you were talking about groups that are getting together.
Do you want to talk up
Can you
here?
get us 5 minutes? 2 minutes?
Sure. So this is a group from Coeur d'Alene, Kootenai County, and they want a couple minutes to just share. So make sure you kind of stand behind the camera there.
So, as a lot of you are aware, you're starting to get involved, and we thank you for that. There are groups everywhere. As she was saying before, a lot of these groups are government funded. These parades are government funded. Many of you aren't aware right now, in Coeur d'Alene, on the 10th of June, there is Family Day. And in Family Day, they are promoting family values, activities, and everything. The very following day, they are having Gay Pride Day in the very same park the very next day, where they will be allowed to parade through all of Coeur d'Alene, drag queen dancers, education hour, making all this material available for all the kids in a park that is designed for kids. We are having an event the very same day. That very same day, we actually intend to go head to head with these people. A line must be drawn in the sand. Good people need to stand up. As she was talking about the repercussions, we say, damn the repercussions. Stand up. Take it to the head. Go to the fight. If you can, possibly, we know a lot of you are in Bonner. We live in Bonner County. We are fighting in multiple counties. We are asking for all of you to come stand with us. Our event is advertised as Gun to Lane because it's an anniversary of when we stood to protect our community. We're standing again to protect our community. We shifted our date to be available to go head to head with these people. They are trying to take your children. This fight is not just paper. It's not just words. It's not just politicians. They have to see people standing in their face saying, no more. If we don't do this, they're winning, as she said. The amount of steps they take are 10 to 1. They've got people nonstop on this. We gain 2 steps, they gain 12. We're not going to win. We're not going to fight back at a leisurely pace. We're busy 6 days a week doing this, and we know a lot of you are too. But we're asking a lot of you, leave your homes, leave your comfort, come stand. If you want to see it, if you want to see what they're promoting, come down there on June 11th. Come see what they're doing. Come with us. Come stand. If any of you want to make stands in these public libraries and you feel nervous, you feel threatened, call us. We'll stand with you. They don't intimidate us. They don't scare us. If you need help, call upon us. We're here. Thank you.
Thank you. Where's that at? McCurran Park on January 11th. Flyers in the back. June 11th, sorry. Question, John.
One of the things that wasn't mentioned tonight was after the grooming starts, you have people that are steering these kids to where they can get a start on their chemical castration.
Thank you. I will address that. You're right.
And then the other thing is, homeschooling is great, but the kids that are homeschooled are going to have to live in a world with a bunch of animals.
Good point. So his one comment was homeschools are great to get your kids out of these government-run schools, but they're going to have to live in a world with these kids from government-run schools. So we have to clean up the schools for the kids that are left in them. The other thing he addressed is what I failed to mention. You know, people say, oh, Idaho's so conservative, we're all Republican. In Idaho, we've had a bill, we had a bill 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that said you can't change the sex of a child until they're 18. We had testimony, I remember vividly, a lady with her little child. She said, I knew when my son was 3 years old and he tried on a nightgown and twirled around, he wanted to be a boy or a girl. And from that day on started the transition. These people in this state are changing the sex of children. They're giving them these hormone blockers, and the hospitals or doctors are giving them those medications to stop puberty or puberty blockers, and then they're doing surgical surgery on them to change their sex. And so this is allowed in Idaho right now. And we can't get a bill passed to stop this. And so this is why I say elections have consequences. We need people. We need good, moral people to step up. You get better government when you get better people that stand up and get involved with their government and run for office, because we are government. So, so anyway, yes, they are transitioning these kids. The schools, many of the counselors they're hiring are connected, the funding's connected, and so they promote this behavior. I can show you the little, what they're doing in the classroom with the little kids. They draw this line, and there's a girl on one side and a boy on the other, and they say, so where do you fit in this spectrum? You're not girl or boy anymore. You're on a gender spectrum, and you can move around on that spectrum. And so that's what's being pounded in these kids' heads. So it's crazy, and we have all these kids graduating from high school, and they don't know if they're a boy or girl. I'm guessing they don't know how to read or write either if they don't know that. So, question.
You said that we have to fight this battle on many different fronts. I know some people don't believe that boycotts work, but they do, especially when a lot of companies that are national companies are run by family-owned franchises, such as a McDonald's can be sold out to a family that owns that McDonald's, although they have to carry the same products that everybody else carries in the McDonald's store and cook the hamburgers the same way. That individual McDonald's store is owned by a family or whatever. Well, you can start by boycotting some of these businesses that cater to these ultra-liberal, sexist ideas that they're pushing. I just found out recently that Burger King, I don't know if it's a privately owned one here in town or not, but they give 35 cents of every chicken sandwich they sell to a fund to help pay for sexual change operations for underprivileged
Wow.
families. They can't afford it.
Okay, so let me reiterate that as quickly as I can. So we need to attack this on every front, and one of those fronts is boycotts. And many of these woke corporations are pushing this agenda. And his example was there's maybe a Burger King that, I'm not sure if it's Burger King. Oh, it is. They give 35 cents of every dollar or whatever. They give some amount of every dollar for every chicken sandwich to transgender surgeries for people that are underprivileged. So it's real easy to identify these companies. You just go to their websites. Most of them are globalist. Many of them are participating in the World Economic Forum, and you just look at their agenda. And if they say words like equity, diversity, inclusion, you guys probably know better than me. So they're pushing the agenda. Question in the back. Here, let's get her. She's new. Go ahead.
We're licensed foster parents, and it breaks my heart because these kids will never be homeschooled. And they come from addictions and all sorts of mess. But one idea that I'm having is that when we've had kids come to our house, health and welfare gives them a backpack that comes from a nonprofit. I'm not sure who the nonprofit is, that has clothes and it has books in it. And as of last year, they're still putting a Bible in it and some other book. And health and welfare is in such a bad way right now. They're just desperate for people to give to these kids. They will take whatever good books you can give to a foster kid. They don't screen them, nothing.
Okay.
So either the woke side can give health and welfare books to foster kids, or we could give them books.
Great point.
I am not sure. I'd have to call health and welfare. If you called health and welfare and said, how do I make a backpack for kids? They're all donated.
So I think she said adopt a child, if you can, a foster child, first. Many of these kids in the system are given a backpack with books in them. So let's figure out how that process works, who provides the books, how we can donate books. I mean, that sounds like a great opportunity for a church to provide books for foster kids. So there's lots there. That's what's great about a room like this. You can brainstorm, and I'm sure, I don't know if we're live streaming or if it got deleted or whatever, but people online can put in stuff. And once we start forming these groups and connect through the parents group, what's it called? Will you write it in the chat? The parents group. Amy's an organizer. She will get everybody organized and put them in a group, and we'll have the state, covered shortly. So, okay, any more? Nina.
I just have a comment. Another thing regarding getting better elected candidates, if you're a Republican and you've read the Idaho Republican platform and you agree with those values, go to your local central community and become a participant. You can even run as a precinct committee member and then push for rating and vetting so that you can vet the candidates to find conservative candidates who run, and then you'll really change the landscape of Idaho by getting conservative candidates.
So that's a great idea. Get involved politically in a party to where you can vet candidates and help promote the candidates that have your values. What is funding the what day? Costco is funding the Gay Pride Festival in Coeur d'Alene. So is TDS. I don't know what cable? STCU is too. So we got STCU. Ooh, I'm going to take my money out of there. Costco and TDS. TDS. And this has, I'll just tell you one other thing. This has nothing to do with children or all this agenda, but the ESG scoring is coming too. It's all going to be tied together, and that's your environment, social, and economics, and equity score. And the banks are starting to do this, so we'll have to check if STCU probably might be doing that. We'll check. Okay, 2 more questions, and we'll wind it down, then you guys can all just talk. Any more? No more questions? One more?
This is for Amy. She had mentioned Laverna.
Yes. Laverna in the library. It's.
Is it Laverna?
Can you spell Laverna, Amy? She can't hear.
Yes, Laverna in the library. Oh, how's it spelled? That's spelled correctly. Laverna.
Just one more question for Amy on her Facebook page. If you're not on Facebook, how is another alternative?
Do you have can you hear? Okay, he's going to text her the question. One more question over here. Well, she gets text. Oh.
One thing we found before when we were trying to get rid of TB mega people, we had an organized day where
Yes,
everyone
so just let me know when you want me to answer that.
Go ahead.
Okay, it's parents with an S, parentsliberty.com. You can give out my number too if they need it.
we had an organized day that we had everybody call in to do it. When those companies can see a mass hit, that's where it's most impactful.
Great idea.
And you've got Costco memberships, everybody calls and cancels, and now I'm going to ask why. You tell them why.
So that's an idea for the groups. You do a mass calling day. Everyone calls Costco Coeur d'Alene and tells them they're disappointed with their agenda, or they call STCU and ask them why they're sponsoring. Are they the ones at the Pride Festival? Yes. Okay. I think that's it. I think we're going to wind it down. Thank you for coming. Please connect with people before you leave. And if you need Amy's number, we'll connect you with Amy. And you probably know my number. So thank you for coming out tonight. I appreciate it. Thank you.